Welcome to the only show bringing cops and the community together for some real talk and some real listening. This is uncut. This is uncensored. This is Black and Blue Live. Welcome everybody to Black and Blue Live. How y'all doing out there? What's going on, young lady? This is our show. Unmute yourself.
Been a minute. I'm back. What's up?
Yeah, we back. You back. You weren't here for the last one, so it's all good. It's all good. Glad to have you back here on this special edition we're going to have for everybody here. So thank you for joining us here, everybody, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. This is our year-end special edition. And thank you for joining us here on this conversation. We're going to have some fun today because we're going to talk about everything that happened in 2020. It was a lot, wasn't it?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, 2020. Oh, 2020. 2020. Lord.
It can't end no sooner than right now. It needs to be over. It needs to be over. But we'll talk about all that. So what you been up to? How was your holidays?
Holidays were good. Quiet, but like wonderful with family and stuff. So it was good. How about you?
We good. We had some visitors over, or visitor. Just my mom came over, and the family time, and we did all that. So it was all good. And I've been working on this background back here. You see that?
I love it.
Yeah, it's still a work in progress, but I got to represent. Got all the things that I like and near and dear to me. I got the DJ turntable, got comic books and police and movies and all music, everything.
You got a little bit of everything.
I'm eclectic, You
got books up there. You smart.
Exactly. We're not a monolith, as we say. Black folks ain't a monolith. So
that's right.
So again, I hope everybody is going to enjoy this conversation today. 2020's got a lot to unpack, and we're going to get to it right now. So our first topic of today of 2020, and make sure you guys send in your comments and your questions. This is going to be a audience participation sort of broadcast here today, so make sure you send those in, and we're gonna have some fun today, right? So our first topic, we got our first comment here from Alana on Facebook. She says, "We're good." What's up with you guys? We're good. Thank you. Yes, thank you for coming in. Yeah, it's all good. And
hello, Kathy Fontenot.
Yes, Fontenot says hello, all. Thank you for joining us as well. And Lashana Potts, hey, y'all from Detroit. Detroit. Yes, I've never been to Detroit, but I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. That's right up the lakes there. So,
I like Motown. Does that count?
Yeah, we all love Motown. Yeah, absolutely, that counts. So, yeah. So, our first topic of today, we got to talk about what's been hitting us in the U.S. and all over the world, and we know what that is, right? That's got to be this coronavirus. COVID-19. Coronavirus. So let us take it back to January of 2020. That was back in January 21st is the first confirmed case of coronavirus here in the United States. That was up in Santa Clara County, California, which is where we reside in California here. So, but that's in NorCal. That don't count for us. We in SoCal. But at any rate, what you think about how's Corona been affecting your life?
I hate coronavirus. So I'm actually the Rona. I'm actually recovering from Rona. So that was a very painful and uncomfortable and unpleasant journey and scary. So shout out to all of those who caught COVID-19 and recovered. Prayers to families who lost loved ones. Super heartbreaking, and just continual prayers to those that are just trying to stay healthy. Wear a mask. Stop it. Yeah. Wear a mask.
Yes, definitely. So we got to talk about how coronavirus changed all of our lives. And the first one here was, of course, social distancing.
Yeah.
We all had to learn how to social distance, 6 feet apart. Right now, the two of us, we kind of a little more than 6 feet apart. You at your spot, I'm at mine, but we all had to learn to social distance. Yeah. And we also had to learn how to wear these masks, as you mentioned a little bit ago. You got any blinged out mask?
I have two blinged out masks. I have a couple other ones that yeah, that
Yeah.
say that. But I'm okay with social distancing. I keep your space.
Yeah. Thank you, JJ on YouTube. What's up, guys? We good? Just trying to unpack 2020. Crystal D on YouTube as well says hi. Crystal D in Chicago. All right, Shot
That's
Town in the
now.
house. The shy. So yeah, so Wordles and Warren Stewart Jr. says, "Hey, Detective Green. Hey." So
Hey.
yeah, so yeah, you gotta wear those masks in 2020 because we got to keep each other safe. You mentioned that you recover, and I think I did have coronavirus back when all this started back in March, and I personally didn't have to go to the hospital. I didn't. I don't know anybody that has died from it. Our department, we work for the same department, you and I, and our department's been hit pretty hard lately. But nobody's perished because of it, and thank God for that.
Blessing.
Yeah, that is a blessing. You know anybody personally yourself that's either had to be
I did
hospitalized
not
or
have
died from
anyone
it?
personally um, pass from corona. I do know people that have been hospitalized. A few of my family members, a few people in my community, and I had some friends and some extended family that have lost loved ones. So
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
very real. This is not a hoax. This is not for play. This is a very, very real virus that is going on. It is not
yeah,
the end of the world, but it is affecting our world.
yeah. Totally 100. And with that, what happened here? Kathy Fournette says nothing to play with, and we
No, it's not.
we definitely know that. Don't play with that. Lynn Taylor says yes. We're praying for all affected, and absolutely. So with that, with what happened with coronavirus and wearing a mask, we also definitely had mass protests. We had people out there protesting. This is my body, my right. The government doesn't have the right to tell me to wear a mask. What do you guys out there think about that? What do you think about that, Lizzie?
Let me say this. Let me just preface this whole today's show. I'm gonna say what I say. Don't at me. I meant what I said. You don't have to
For
like. You don't have
real.
to love it. But I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say about everything we talk about today,
Mm-hmm.
with the love of the Lord. But I, you don't have to wear a mask. But in the fact that you don't have to wear a mask, you also have to respect the rules and the laws and the statutes that are set in place of other people. So your rights don't get to infringe on mine. And
No.
and what I mean by that is if you don't want to wear a mask in a store, find a store that'll let you come in without wearing a mask. If you
Yeah.
don't want to wear a mask going out, it is what it is. Don't be in places where it's a requirement because there will be enforcement. It just is what it is. There's no double standards. And yeah, get your life together.
Yep. Yep.
And unfortunately, a lot of people learned the hard way, and a lot of people suffered from the ignorance of others.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. And then another thing that happened because of the hey Kevin on YouTube, thank you. Hey everybody, appreciate you for joining us here. Be sure to comment on anything that we say today. We'll be sure to get to your comments. And Kevin Anthony on YouTube says Redlands representing. All right now. All right. This is going to be our most commented show here today. All right. Everybody got something to say about 2020. And another thing that happened here was also the lockdowns. We all had to deal with
Yes,
these lockdowns. California, we're going through another one right now. Other parts of the country going through lockdown. All the restaurants are closed. It's a big thing. It's difficult because, another thing here was the business closures, right? The economy's suffering because of this, and we all suffering, right? But what they say is, we got to suffer all together for a better future tomorrows, right? So, what do you guys out there think about that? Lynn Taylor on Facebook said this is one time when we all have to give up the right to be right. Wear a mask and stay 6 feet away. All right, I
amen.
totally agree with you. Yes, absolutely. And a Crystal D says that's right. Stop the foolishness. Wear that mask. Yes, I got me one. I don't need to wear it right now, but I got me one. I got me a few. And
Yes,
working in our line of work, we definitely
need
need to
them.
wear masks when we out there. Definitely. But hopefully there's some relief around the corner. We got the vaccine. The vaccine will be out here. So
The
what's that laugh about? What's that laugh about?
vaccine.
You
You know,
are you
I'm
one of the
not.
ones that that are not going
I'm
to take
not
the vaccine?
anti-vaccinations. Okay, I'm not
Okay.
anti-vaccinations. I will say that I'm not in a rush to do this. I don't feel that the trials were um, as
Robust.
refined and as defined as they needed to be for me to jump into that line. Not knocking anybody that does. If you turn into a zombie, understand it is what it is. It ain't nothing personal. But there's a big deal because
Yeah.
obviously, especially in Black and Brown communities, there's a major hesitation for that. And so I think it kind of goes with 2020 because 2020 was the year of exposure. It was the year where, and I'm going to speak for America, but the world, but America really got a self check, right? So 2020 began to expose a lot of cracks in our systems, a lot of broken places, a lot of things that we keep sweeping under the carpet, and we fell over it. And when we fell over it, it showed our dirty draws and everything else. So going back to this, now we have the hesitation and the fear from an ongoing issue with discrepancies in double
Hmm.
standards in care for Black and Brown communities. And so I am very hesitant, but I'm not knocking anyone doing it. I understand that we need to find a cure, and I believe that there will be one. I just won't be in the first line
The
to get
first.
it.
Well, that's just like anything. When you buy a car, when you buy a new device, they always say don't get the first generation because they didn't quite work out the kinks. And they got those recalls. It's probably gonna be the same thing for these vaccines. They still got to
Yeah.
work out the kinks. But there's a lot of people taking the vaccine now. Frontline workers, nurses, and doctors, and police and firefighters are taking the vaccine now. So we'll see, right?
Yeah, I find it interesting though that many of the photos are of African Americans, and so um, when they start marketing it to their animals the way they are to Black and Brown communities, then I'll jump in there because
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. And then VVV on Facebook says if Dr. Fauci took it, then we can. Okay. All
I
right.
think again everybody should take follow your conscience and whatever your heart says, please do. As for me and my house, we gonna wait. We gonna stand by.
All right. All right.
Stand down and stand by.
Oh no. Yeah, where have I heard that? All right. Moving along. Moving along. Moving along. Our next big thing that happened in 2020 was a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching death of Kobe Bryant in a helicopter crash back on January 26th of this year. We all remember that, right? I mean, that was to this day. I mean, I'm still shocked over it. What
Yeah.
were you like when you heard that news?
It was just surreal because he was so young.
Yeah.
His daughter, his baby, the other families that were aboard, it was just so unexpected. But 2020 was so unexpected in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
I
we,
was
we didn't know
planning my
what we didn't know what 2020 had in store, but that was
right.
the first shot. That was the first shot. You mentioned he and his daughter there, Gianna, and then the other members of that flight that also perished with Kobe Bryant
Yeah.
and his daughter that day. So hearts and prayers go out to them as well, to those families
This is
as
their
well.
first Christmas without them. So this
Yeah,
is their
yeah,
first year without a lot of moments with their family. So lots of
yeah,
prayers to them
yeah.
also.
Yeah, because I'm a big Laker fan, as I'm sure a lot of people watching this are, or maybe aren't, but everybody had respect for Kobe Bryant, and I was just, man, just to this day, I still can't believe it, and but we are, and his family seems like they're dealing with it a little better.
You
I
know what
know,
I found it interesting about his death is it was a reminder more so you don't realize the impact your life has on people.
yeah,
And so, like, for Kobe, he was being girl dad, doing these things. But when you looked at the outpouring, whether you were a fan of him or not, you can't
hmm
deny the impact and how people were impacted by his death. And so for me, it was really a check, like
Yeah.
live a life poured out. Make
Right.
sure you're being intentional and everything. Nothing's promised. So make sure, even Gianna, she lived a life poured out. She was already defining where people are like, oh, Kobe needs a son. And she was always quoted saying, I got this.
Yeah.
Girl power,
Yeah.
I got this. I'm gonna do what I need to do. And so
Hmm.
not even allowing what people want to consider stereotypes or holds to define you or to hold you back. Live your life poured out at 12, 10, 30, 300,
Yep.
99, 88, 42, whatever, but never allow those boundaries to stop, right?
Yep. All right. Kathy says it was the first shakeup and a shocker. It was the first shakeup. Like I said, that was the first of many crazy things that happened in 2020. So let's move on to the next thing that happened in 2020, which was Ahmaud Arbery shooting. That was in February 23rd of 2020, and I'm sure we all remember that one. That one's the one that happened out in Georgia, where he was running through that neighborhood, and these two men right here chased him down in their truck
It
and thought
wasn't
that
just
they were
them
gonna.
two, though.
Yeah, well,
Remember,
there was
there
a
was the
third one.
neighbor too.
There was a
He got
third one
some of
that
that
was, yeah.
justice too.
Yeah, there was a third one there that was trailing behind, filming the whole thing. That's how the
Hmm.
world found out about it. And yeah, they try to enact their own brand of justice. And when it came to light, all of us outside of that community raised hell, right?
Yep.
Brought that evil to the light, right? So,
Yep.
uh, what do you think when you saw and heard about that?
Mm. It's. I think for me, again, there's kind of been a series of unfortunate, Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events. Um, there was the grief, and again, the double standard that we
Hmm.
often see, that our community, many of our communities are crying out about, and I'm grateful that there are many, many agencies and many, many people that are now listening and beginning to develop a response. And there's still some agencies that are very tone deaf and are neglectful in seeing the bigger part, and that trickles down. And then it trickles back up. So I I was broken.
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
broken. Like
Yep.
it was really sad. It was harsh to watch.
Yeah.
And I
That
think
was
that we
another
got
thing that
the
we.
trauma porn.
Yeah, that was another thing in 2020 that we got to see with our own eyes, because somebody recorded it, and there was some other incidents that happened, prior to 2020, and some in 2020 that we'll talk about as well. But yeah, just seeing all this happening before our eyes, it's, back in the day they used to call these snuff films that they wouldn't allow it, but now we can all see it, for better or for worse, we can all view this stuff. So yeah. That was tragic. Next thing that happened in 2020, Jackie Green says, "Thank God for Detective Green."
Hi,
All right.
mama. That's
Hi,
my
Mama
mama,
Green.
y'all.
Yes, yes, we agree on that one, Mama Green. Thank you, Bishop Green. Next thing that happened here in 2020, Harvey Weinstein was arrested in February, on February 20th, 2020. Yeah, he had some issues, to say the least. Um, what was your reaction about that story when that came out?
Um, so I know I have zero, like, yeah, it was a long time coming, and a long time needed. Him, Epstein, R. Kelly,
Mm-hmm.
Bill Cosby, all of these things, and it really deals with the rape culture that we have normalized, and in my opinion, the over sexualization of a lot of things, which then makes us very numb and detached to basic human values and human decency. And that
Yeah.
also spurred the Me Too movement. And so
Yes.
I think that it only confirmed, again, like we said earlier, 2020 exposing, and America's panties
Mm-hmm.
is showing, because they weren't the first ones to do
No.
it. They just are now finally the ones that are being held accountable. There's a lot of folk, a lot of everyday and high earning, a lot of political figures,
Hmm.
governmental figures that should be in the same boat as him.
Right. And they wield their power because, they got money and power to kind of skate the system. But Claudia Nahara on Facebook says 2020 exposed a lot of hypocrisy in our political leaders on all sides. And it is hard not to be skeptical of anything they say or suggest now. This is true.
So true.
So true.
So true.
So,
And I think
yep.
that's also why we've seen um, such a division in our nation, because people don't know what to trust or who to trust. Um, they've done both sides of what should be our leadership have done a disservice to the people, and their need for power or agenda has superseded the need for humanity and
Yep.
fixing the issue. So
Hmm.
yeah, that absolutely, that was well said.
Yeah. Crystal D agrees. Yes. Speaking the truth. Yes, ma'am. Next thing that happened, it seemed like so much happened in 2020, and we haven't even got
We had a
we
whole
ain't,
decade in 1 year. We
we
ain't even got to
ain't-
March.
good Lord. But the next thing that happened in 2020 was Breonna Taylor shooting that happened in March 13th to 2020. I'm sure we all remember the story that PD out there in St. Louis went into her house with her and her boyfriend, and
With a no notice.
no knock warrant, and what some of those facts are in dispute of whether or not they heard when they were knocking or they didn't knock, and then the police came in and met her in the hallway with the boyfriend, and the boyfriend fired off a round, and they returned fire, killing Brianna. Some people say she was in the bed when it happened. Some people say that she was in the hallway. That was a controversial thing. That was one of the straws on this back 2020 that eventually broke, that we'll talk about as well. But what were your feelings on Breonna Taylor?
I was angry. I think I was more angry at the end when the only verdict was that when they shot first of all, the officer, not the sergeant,
Mm-hmm.
not any of the supervisors, but the patrol officer who was following the lead,
Right.
was the only one indicted, and it was for reckless endangerment, not for
Yes.
murdering
Right.
Brianna, but for
Right.
reckless endangerment because one of the bullets
In
went
the
stray.
next apartment. Yep.
Right. And the unfortunate part of this case is, number one, the media really has not had integrity in 2020 and in a couple years, but 2020 has really just everybody done shown their butt, as my grandma used to say. You didn't show your tail. Right.
Show it.
So because of that, there were so many skewed facts and so many missed things. And I think what does a lot of departments in injustice, but I understand the process because there is a process, and we could talk about that if our listeners have a question. When
Yep.
investigations occur, everything isn't put out there. It's the same thing with any other case. However, the media will then go in and dig up what they want to dig up and decide who the villain is,
Right.
regardless of the victim, right? So we saw that in Trayvon Martin, where they made the issue that Trayvon allegedly had been drinking alcohol laced with that had like the purple syrup, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tried to make him a bad person, but the reality is he's a kid walking home, and he defended himself.
Yep.
And George murders him because he gets overpowered, right?
Right.
So, but with the media, they make the choice of who's going to be bad, who's going to be good. And so in this case, Breonna, nothing good was said about her, although her life was good. There was a post that last year around Christmas, she said, "Man, I hope next year," which would have been this year, "I could have some kids to celebrate with." And so for me, I was angry that this woman, this kind woman, this first responder, this young lady was being defined by a relationship that the media established, not necessarily that we heard from her. And in the case, you even have where the DA's office goes and offers the suspect that they were looking for, not Breonna, not her boyfriend, but
Yep.
the suspect that they were looking for. They offered him a deal. Now, mind you, he looking at some time, and they offered him probation if they would just implicate Breonna, if he would just
Yes.
say
If you would
she
just
did it.
say,
And for me, as a first responder, for me, as someone who loves justice and law, it made me angry because it brings a discreditation to everyone else who is out here busting their butt and working and waking up every day saying, I'm going to serve my community, because we are here. We are here. We are working. We come out with the best of intentions. And yet, these individuals, and really there's a system and a culture over there. When you see stuff like that, there's a culture
yeah,
in the department and things that need to be fixed, reformed, whatever, reimagined. It
from
needs
the
to be
top
dealt
down,
with.
from the
Yeah,
top down.
that
Yeah.
allows this behavior to continue. I said what I said. Don't at me. I don't. It is what it is. I didn't.
Yeah, we
I
know. We
joined
know.
law enforcement, to make a
Yeah.
difference, and I'm going to call out dirt dog wrong, and I'm going to stand up for what is right. That was wrong.
That was wrong. Okay. The next wrong thing that happened in 2020, and we all know this is the straw that broke the camel's back, George Floyd. That happened on May 25th of this year. We all know what happened there. Derek Chauvin, Officer Chauvin in Minneapolis PD, was holding down Mr. Floyd by the patrol car there, and he had his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck. And Mr. Floyd was even calling out, I can't breathe, started calling out for his mother. And there was a crowd there that was filming the thing. And they pleaded with the officers to let him up. And Officer Chauvin wouldn't. So we all know what happened there. George Floyd was choked and he died there before the EMTs got there. And that kind of sparked everything from there with BLM, right? With the protest that happened from coast to coast. We certainly felt it here in California, all the way from something that
Globally,
happened in Minneapolis.
there was
Yeah, globally.
there was a
Yeah,
global
definitely.
response.
Yes, because we had people to say enough is enough, right? We had
Hmm.
people all over the world, protesting against injustice, and that was Australia, that was in England, that was in Asian countries. That it was just a lot. It was a lot, and just to see it before our very eyes, right in front of us, man, I don't know.
It I think that it leveled a lot of um, it isn't new, unfortunately. What
No,
happened to Mr. Floyd is not a new thing. But what it did was very much like the march in Selma, the protest in Chicago, like many things we had seen before, it televised the ugliness. It is a
right,
forever stamp in America, but what it also did was put a visual to the ugliness that many people dismiss and try and minimize because they don't want to believe
right,
the giver, right? So it made it real. You can't ignore these bruises. You can't
yeah,
ignore this funeral. This is
yes,
real. This was over a counterfeit $20 bill. A handcuffed man
right,
was
yep,
murdered and choked out and cried out for his dead mother.
yes, yes.
Murder.
So, all this sparked, to defund the police. Uh, this is the sort of thing that police officers are supposed to, here in California, they enacted
De-escalation.
the de-escalation. Not only that, but the duty to act, to intercede, that we all had to sign off on our departments here, and I'm sure across the nation, things that we were already doing. Because I saw that myself. And they had that. Remember that one officer that they were all yelling at, saying, why don't you get him to stop? Make him stop. I mean, if Chauvin wasn't going to stop, the other officers had a duty too. I know there was a trainee there that said something, and they told him to shut up, but you still had a duty to act, right? I personally haven't seen anything like that in my day working. At any rate, if that were to happen, I could just say, hey man, lay up, let me take care of this or what have you. That didn't happen there. And if one of those other officers would have stepped up, Mr. Floyd would still be here today. So, it's just crazy that, we had to go through this, and we're still going through this. It's unfortunate we may still go through it again. Yeah. So, all right. Next thing that happened in 2020. NASCAR bans the Confederate flag. That was on June 10th of this year. I'm not a NASCAR fan.
What's kind of funny is in 2018, I think it was 2018, the big thing was Kaepernick. Was it 2018 or 2017?
Yeah.
Kaepernick kneeling.
Yeah. Right around that time.
Like that was the big, that not necessarily taken away from I know there were other things, but that was the issue.
Well, that's more going back to the that's more going back to the George Floyd and all that. Yeah.
And now we're here, and had we just dealt with things, it's exhausting.
Isn't it though? So, and dealing with this NASCAR thing, like I said, the two of us, I'm sure we're not NASCAR fans, but you had to be told in 2020 that the Confederate flag isn't. There was I think it was Mississippi, also had the Confederate flag on their logo, and in 2020 they just got rid of it. It's a shame that in 2020, other people see it as they don't see it as we see it, as something that was not advantageous to us as Black people during the Civil War, during that time in the South.
First of all, the Confederate flag is a racist symbol. Let's anybody else don't know, because I had a training officer want me to traffic stop a truck with a big Confederate flag on the back of it late at night, and I was like, I didn't know that. And I'm like, he's like, I thought it was just an American flag. Nah, boo-boo. Yeah. This is the flag of the losing team. Mm-hmm. The losing team that was willing to succeed, the unpatriotic losing team that was willing to succeed from America and spill the blood of their own children so that they could own, so that they could continue to be human traffickers. Yes. So that they could continue to rape and pillage a race of people they deemed inferior to themselves for the profit of sugar and cotton. There is nothing wonderful. The only place that flag deserves to be is in the museum, under the losing team, or burning in somebody's fireplace. Period.
Indeed.
And shame on NASCAR for not dealing with it sooner.
Yep.
Shame on anybody that has it in their house still, other than a simple historical fact. There's no need. You're unpatriotic. I said what I said.
And you see those trucks and those cars rolling down the street, flying it in 2020. That's too much.
Too much.
Next thing. Period.
Mm-hmm. Period.
Next thing that happened in 2020, Rayshard Brooks, the Rayshard Brooks shooting in 2020. If you remember that was with the officers in Atlanta. They stopped Mr. Brooks for a DUI, and he apparently was DUI, and they went in to arrest him for the DUI and got into a scuffle. Up to this point, they were lawful. They were justified. He overpowered the two of them. That's another topic that we'll talk about, training of these officers, but he overpowered both of them, got one of their tasers and ran off. Okay. So one of the other officers saw that his partner's taser was taken from him. And as Mr. Brooks was running away, he shot Mr. Brooks in the back a couple times. And that sparked a number of protests nationwide, most effectively in Atlanta, in the Wendy's parking lot where that happened. That was a crazy incident too. I mean, we weren't there. We weren't there.
One. It's not as clear cut, and so let me preface this so you all understand what I'm saying. The video shows, as he's running away, him raising the taser to shoot, and it fires in the direction of the officer's face. And so you have to understand what we refer to as use of force continuum, and also when to use of force. And so even though a taser in itself, when deployed correctly, is not a lethal weapon, it can have
Correctly.
lethal consequences when it is deployed and it hits. So, had the taser hit the officer in the eye, or that time of being decomposed would have been enough time for that subject to come and shoot on him and his partner to take their lives. That is
Yes.
where that part comes in, that gray area. Yes, in and of itself, a taser, holding a taser, no, but it's the same thing as someone having a bat. It's not a gun, but you can knock me unconscious and thus kill me.
Right.
So there are those things that are measured in as an officer that you're looking at and you're judging when you make these split second decisions. So I
Totality of the
am,
circumstances.
yeah, so it's
Yes.
a totality. So yes, Crystal, it's not a lethal weapon, and so I don't know all the details of it, but it is a gray area with that situation in that moment. Um,
Yes.
and because he turned and the officer fired, but he fired after the taser was deployed. He turned and did that. So I don't know what it looked like to him at night,
Yeah.
whatever else. It's a
And
very hazy situation, and yeah.
in this particular situation, our tasers in our department, we have the one shots, right? There's other departments around us, and apparently in Atlanta they have the two shot. So yeah, I heard that argument that was he shot the taser, he was done, right? So the officer shouldn't have shot. No, there was another shot in there. There was another
Two
taser
cartridges.
dart in there. There's another cartridge, another dart in there. So yeah, I mean that one sparked a lot of outrage, a lot of protests as well. Um, it's crazy, but it was another straw that broke that camel's back in 2020.
And here's the other part of that too. You have to also frame in the officer's minds, this gentleman, this subject also had overpowered both of them. So we know that he was drinking, but as an officer, at the point that you overpower two people, yes, there are training issues and things like that. However, um, with that, are there other things on board? Did this subject, and I don't know that he did, so I am not saying that, but I'm trying to help you understand the mindset of the officer.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he could overpower me, now that kind of escalates the level of force that I'm going to use to effect an arrest. And so the goal is to effect an arrest. However, as things transition and they morph and things change, they escalate, and it changes from just the arrest now, because now he's in public. That Wendy's was full of people. There was a line full of people, all of that. And he has the weapon of the officer. So it escalates now the process and the mind and the tools that we have available to us.
Right.
Again, we are not saying this was justified or unjustified. We just want to give a perspective of what could have been going through the officer's mind and what is another perspective from a law enforcement. You don't have to agree with it. That is just part of the training, though.
Yeah. Yep. Next thing in 2020, we kind of talked about him before. Jeffrey Epstein, he was arrested on July 2nd. We don't have to rehash that, but that did happen in 2020 in July. We talked about Weinstein before that, so don't want to beat a dead horse there. We got the gist of that. Next thing that happened was in July 13th, the NFL, an NFL team drops its racist name and logo. That'll be the Washington football team, which they call themselves now. The Washington football team, that's their name. But if you recall, the Washington Redskins, as they were once called, there was a controversy going on years and years that in the Native American community that they should not have that name. It's a racist name. Redskins is obviously a racist name. Can you imagine a team be called
No,
the
I
Blackskins?
cannot.
The Blackskins, right?
I
Right.
cannot. It is
No.
a very racist name. And even with the owner saying, I'm not going to change it and all
Yes.
that.
Daniel
Shame on you
Snyder.
for
Yep.
not being prepared. And shame
Yep.
on the rest of America who thinks that a group of people should be stereotyped and embarrassed. And oh, everybody's politically correct. No, right is right. Wrong is wrong.
Right is
I
right.
think,
Yep.
I think what America is realizing is that a lot of stuff they've been doing has been just backwards and wrong. And now you're being called to the table and you're not used to it. And you're being called to the table by everybody as opposed to
Everybody.
just the one, because everybody is now uniting voices saying, I don't like this. I don't want you making sexual jokes. I don't want you making jokes or stereotypes about me based on my religion or my sexual orientation or my race or any of those things. It's not okay, and you're being held to the carpet. And so it's not that people are more sensitive; it's that people tired of your BS
Yep.
and let it echo around the world.
Accountability. Carla Green says, this is so good. Appreciate you on YouTube. Appreciate you. Charzalita Nixon says, very good. She's watching us on YouTube. Charletta, okay.
Charletta.
All right. Thank you for joining us here. And next thing that happened in 2020, John Lewis dies.
Lewis, good trouble, y'all. Let's get in some good trouble. Listen.
Let's get in some good trouble.
Let's get in some good trouble.
Yeah. So we all know John Lewis. He was a pioneer in the movement back in the 60s. He marched with Martin Luther King in Selma, Alabama, and a bunch of those communities down there in the South, right? For rights of Black folks back then, the right to be treated as a human being, to vote, and all that. He was then elected to the Senate.
Yes,
he ran for office and was elected to the Senate. And also he received a Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Obama a few years ago. Yes. So, yes,
he's a good man, a good preacher.
Yes. What's your thoughts on Senator John Lewis?
Obviously grieved, because that's a huge loss with all of that. But he lived a life poured out, and I think that at some point we have to pick up the baton. At some point, that we want to rest on the shoulders of people who have already gone before, but they went before so we could run after. It's like the track meet, when you leg 1, leg 2, 3, 4. Yep. He done ran about 4 legs 4 times over. It's time for us to jump on and go forward, and it's not comfortable. I mean, he was a preacher, right? So, but now he's imprisoned. Now he is on the other side of the law, and for all intents and purposes, his reputation is tarnished. But his conviction and his purpose, his destiny was bigger than being defined by reputation. So for all of our listeners, understand that your destiny and your journey is much bigger than this moment. It's bigger than 2020. Take the lessons of 2020 to get in some good trouble.
Absolutely. And Gloria Broda says good trouble's necessary. We miss them.
Yes, absolutely.
Do. So, and like Lizzie said, we got to pick up that baton and keep running with it. Can't be stagnant. Can't be stagnant.
There was a couple of good specials for those of y'all who don't know who John Lewis is. There were a couple of specials. I don't think we can give specifics to companies, but there are. If you Google it, you will find several shows and movies made about his life recently that were excellent and will give you insight into him and who he was. Yeah,
I saw a couple on Netflix. So.
Yeah. Okay. So Netflix had a couple good ones. I'm not sure we can say it. Yeah. Trying to be good.
Yeah. All right. The next thing that happened in 2020 is Major League Baseball started their season on July 23rd, 2020 to no fans in the stand. So they started spring break, spring training. And this kind of boils down to, the two of us, we both have kids that were in high school, both graduated, and, dealing with kids now. I still got one in high school now. And so now they're distance learning.
Colleges are distance learning.
Colleges too. Yep. Our sons
are big milestones, no homecoming.
Yes. And no sports. And that's what I was leading up to on this. No sports for these kids. The pros, they worked it out. They had bubbles and all that. But these kids in high school, they lost out on that.
Programs.
Yeah.
All of that.
It's terrible, but it's something we had to do. I know there's other parts of the country that are actually still in session. I don't know if they're competing in their sports, but out here in California, we haven't had any schools since March earlier this year. And part of that is the sports programs. They're just now getting back, but there's no competition. So you got a senior that was looking to be looked at by some colleges, football, basketball, track, what have you. They didn't have that competition.
Yeah.
Sad,
well, right? In some schools, like I know Arizona, they reopened and had partial, but then like you'll see in some areas it opened and it didn't. So I think you have that frustration, and especially like for younger kids, they don't get that connection and the interaction of learning just basic skills. I think we are appreciating that, but I also think parents learned to appreciate teachers and educators because they got stuck home with them kids that they've been sending and
Right.
didn't discipline, right? So
And now they know there was some badass kids all along.
right.
When the teachers fault, right?
I wasn't gonna say it. Yeah, folks had to raise their own kids and they didn't like it. But I also think that 2020 made families spend time together, because we ain't going nowhere. So we gonna have to work it out. So you reconnected by playing games again. It took away the hustle and bustle of work, and parents got to be parents and kids got to be kids, and families actually were home in time to enjoy time with their kids and do projects and crafts. And I know that COVID was going, but I do feel like there was still also a better a sense of relief for some in some areas, but there was also coupled with a strain of how am I going to pay my bills?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, baby kids, exactly.
Baby kids, yeah, they
Baby
know, they
kids.
learn now. They had to be with them kids 24/7. Now they know.
Yes, yes.
Now
Yes,
they know.
we got to say this too. In 2020, the Raiders went to the Vegas,
Oh,
Raider
just
Nation, baby, Noel.
yeah, stay in Vegas, and to stay on this topic about MLB. The Dodgers won. The Dodgers won
Yes.
this season, this year. So us out here in SoCal, we want to thank the Dodgers for bringing that championship back home, the first time since 1988.
Dodgers were the first MLB team to integrate when they were in New York. So yes, I'm always going to be a Dodgers fan. I'm very excited about them. Yes, I love the Angels, but I'm going to be a Dodgers fan. Yeah, shout out to all
educators. Yes,
we appreciate
working in the school.
You
I know
all.
that. Yolanda says, we teachers rule. I guess you're a teacher. All right. Thank you for what you do, Yolanda. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next thing that happened in 2020, sticking to sports, the NBA resumed its season on
in the bubble.
July 30th in the bubble at Magic Kingdom, Disney World in Florida, in Orlando, Florida.
Who was the cat that touched the microphone and kicked it off?
That was dude from Utah. I can't think of his name right now, but one of our listeners of our viewers will probably check that out for us. But that was Rudy Gobert. Rudy, whatever his name is. Yeah, Rudy. Yeah, he's the one who set that off for
the jokes go bad.
Gobert, yeah. So they played the NBA played most of his season up to that point, up to March. And then they were on lockdown like the rest of us. And then they had to resume their season at some point. They resumed it back in July. And we all know what happened there. The Lakers won that championship.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what else happened too?
What was that?
When they came back, they had the New Jerseys in the bubble.
Okay, yeah.
So going back to the protests and BLM and all of the other things, even there was a social responsibility for many celebrities. And a lot of people begin to speak out too. Like it went much bigger than anybody anticipated.
Yeah, that's gonna bring us. That's gonna bring us to our next topic here. But let me flash that one more time, Lakers. Yeah,
look at LeBron looking cool, and he has a very
our season just started
too. Yeah, and many of our celebrities were really donating and trying to offset a lot of the hardships that our small businesses and families are feeling during this time. So shout out to all of our philanthropists and our secret givers and all of that.
Indeed, doing it without the spotlight, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that brings us to our next thing that happened in 2020, the Jacob Blake shooting that happened in Wisconsin, outside of Wisconsin. This is the incident where the police out there were called to some incident, some sort of domestic incident.
So it was a domestic, and I think he was actually trying to separate what was going on, and he was walked away, right?
Yeah. something like that. I'm not sure if he was part of it, but at any rate, the police got there and they ordered him, to separate, to try to detain him. He broke away from them, tried to enter his car where his kids were, and as he reached down to get into the car, the officers sounds like they thought he was reaching for a weapon or something, and they shot him right there in the back. So that sparked a bunch of other protests that happened out there in Wisconsin, including this man right there, Rittenhouse, that came across the border to help protect some stores, as he says. He's a teenager.
Let's go back to the other gentleman, because I feel like this is a wonderful teaching lesson.
Okay.
Again, going back to training. And so just shedding some light as to why a lot of people had issues with it. One, they had been fighting with Mr. Blake on the floor, on the ground, and he gets up and he walks to a car that is full of children. And so one of the controversies was, if in fact the officers were in fear, why did they allow him to walk, and why did they stroll behind him as he got to the car full of children? If they felt that there was that need. And so that goes back to training also.
Now they did have him either at gunpoint or a taser point as he was, I had some pictures there. I remember seeing that, they had him at gunpoint or taser point as he was walking back to the car. They allowed him, yes. What they should have done. So
like for me, if I'm fighting with somebody on the ground, you're not getting up. Yeah. You're not getting up. And you're not making it to a car full of children if I feel that there's that. And so that's why there was a controversy, and that goes back to the training. And I will say this, California, I believe it's California, New York, and Texas have the highest training standards. And I think California being number one in training and de-escalations. And so I think what we are going to see is quite a bit of reform in training standards. It is not the same across the board. Let me say that again. What you're required to do here in California, you're not required in other states. It is why California very rarely, I only know of one person that did not go to a California academy that was able to test and to get hired. If you come to California from another state, they mandate you to go through the academy here because of such the difference in our training and the requirements for that. So understand why it's so important. Understand also why the budget is so high for law enforcement. A lot of that goes towards training. I would encourage those that are saying defund or reform or reimagine any of that, and I'm not knocking it, please educate yourselves on our systems and our training and why we do what we do, the science of it and all of that, so that you can have an informed decision as to in regards to tools or whatever else you're looking at. When you want something to go or stay, you understand the why.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times that part is missing from a lot of things. We saw that in LA. They took all of the ARs. And then when we had the big bank heist, they didn't have an ability to defend themselves because the process for getting certain weapons and things like that assigned, it was too hard and there wasn't enough. And so all these people, including civilians and officers, were murdered with two people who understood that. So understand the repercussions of going too extreme one way or the other without having an informed decision.
Absolutely. Next thing that happened in 2020.
Wait, we didn't talk about Kyle though. We didn't talk about Kyle. We didn't talk about the little boy. We didn't talk about little boy Blue.
Let's go back then. So Mr. Kyle Rittenhouse.
I'm mad at this.
Yeah, he so this story is that during the protests that happened as a result of Jacob Blake and all the other ones that were going on in the nation at that time, he decided he needed to defend, I think it was his uncle's store or something like that.
His mama drove him down. Yeah, his mama drove him to help defend the rights of the store. People.
Right. And so he came down with his AR and he helped defend the store. Mind you, he's only 17? He was only 17, right? So if my son, and I'm sure your son as well, say, hey, mom, hey, dad, can you drive me down to this other state, let's say Arizona, so I can go help defend Uncle so-and-so's store? you know what I'm gonna say. Boy, sit your butt down and
First of
let
all,
grown
and
folks handle
then
whatever, right?
after he shoots at people,
Yes.
this was the
So
kicker. After he shoots at people, he walks up to the officers who are so fixated on what they believe the problem is. They completely
they
ignore that
just
this
let them. Yep.
explorer, this minor
Mhm.
explorer, is walking around with an AR, and they say, "Hey, kiddo, go home.
Go home.
Get out of here." And everybody, and you can hear on the video, they're saying he's shooting.
Right.
But I said, again,
Mhm.
training is
Yeah.
huge. Yes, little boy blue. Look, I just,
Mm.
oh Lord.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yolanda says on Facebook, may you please educate. What does it mean when they say defund the police? Thank you.
All right. So there are several definitions depending on who you talk to. The ones that I have found most prevalent, there's two. There's defund where they say completely abolish police officers as is and create community groups and resources to respond to those issues, and take the monies that are funding it. So for law enforcement, they are funded through cities, through the taxes or the payment of the citizens of the city. So if you have a city agency, they're police. If you have deputies, they are county funded, but it still comes out of the city's budget. The other part of defund the police is take the monies that are allotted to law enforcement and re purpose them to
Right.
education, to housing programs, and other things like that. So the and then there is the reimagining, which is focusing on um, training, focusing on different responses. How do we address implicit bias and systemic racism within various agencies? Um, and how do we allocate monies? How do we force cities to allocate monies to programs that focus on prevention, or how do we give money to police departments to focus on prevention and community
Right.
policing? um, so that's what it is. I think we gave our opinions on that. Yeah, a while ago. What's your
Yeah.
opinion, Jail?
So,
How
well,
you
I
feel
think,
about it?
oh man, so defund the police. Obviously, I'm working in the field like you.
I want my job,
Obviously,
y'all.
there's
Don't
yeah,
defend.
yeah,
I know I
we
want my
want our
job.
job, but yes, things can be changed. Always can we could always want change. Things need to be changed all the time, and that's what we advocate for. But things, we need to be the ones that actually out there getting this training and responding to these things. There's some kind of movement to have, say, like for these mentally ill calls, to have social workers. There are some departments where they respond with officers, but I know some people are out there with this movement to just have them exclusively respond to these calls. What
I,
happens when they get violent, right?
right.
Then
So
they
I
can call
think
the
that
service,
there's that
and
part that they're not talking
it's
about
got to
is
be
the
that happy
violence.
medium, right? It's got to be that
Yeah.
happy medium. So, of course, some things can be changed and should be changed and should be worked on, obviously. But abolishing the police obviously is not, just human beings being human beings. There's always going to be somebody that's going to be doing evil, and there's always got to be somebody to check that. Not saying that we are 100% right all the time, because we're not,
No.
and we need to be called to the carpet on that as well. So, defund the
I
police, it encompasses a number of things, like you said, and I'm just happy to get the one that makes everything better for all of us: the police, the citizens, my mama, my
yeah.
wife, my kids, you, everybody. So
So and the other part that I think also you have to look at too is some of the funds that they're wanting to allocate to other programs. Traditionally, cities don't fund those things. So like education doesn't come out of the city's budget for public schools and things like
right,
that. Um, Medical things don't come out of the city's budget. Not saying that it can't, not saying that city budgets can't be relooked at and reworked to allocate those things, because I'm telling you, it is very important to have a city budget that is youth focused and elderly focused, as well as family focused. And the reason I separated that is if you have nowhere for your kids to go, or no programs to help them, or no way to fuse those that may not have the same, we all start at the starting line, but we know for a fact everybody ain't starting the same way.
Yeah, no.
And so when you don't have anything to compensate or adjust or to help people to get to the finish line, you are going to see an increase in crime. We see cities like that all over the place. And so, yes, we see that. But so I think that can happen. But if you take away the monies it takes to fund your officers, and pay matters, when you look at where a lot of these uses of forces are occurring, or places where there's a lot of corruption in the departments, the pay scale, you're going to get what you pay for. So when you're defunding that, you're going to get what you're paying for. I go to work every day. Dale goes to work every day. Every officer goes to work every day with the understanding I may never see my family again. When I walk out this door, this could be it.
Yep.
It takes a special kind of someone to say, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do my best for any and everyone, regardless of how they treat me, and put my life on the line, regardless of who they are.
That's the kicker. That's the kicker.
Right?
Put your life on the line for people that you don't know, because that's what you signed up for.
I'm going to meet people on the worst day of their lives every day by profession, right? Because we don't get invited to the cookout. We show up on the worst day of people's lives. And so we have to have the funding to get the type of people that understand that, and that not only understand that, but see people as human regardless of this moment. And so, yes, funding is important, but yes, we have to have the officers that have the mindset to deal with it, and have the heart to deal with it. Otherwise, you're going to keep getting the same thing of what you're getting.
Reagan Davis on YouTube says funding is very important, but the willingness of officers to change is key. Exactly what I stated before. Yes. And Charles Zeta, I've got some problems with that. Charles Zeta says on YouTube, thank you, Liz, Dale, and all officers who are doing the right thing in protecting us. I so appreciate you. Thank you. We appreciate you too as well. Kathy says praying for you every day. We appreciate you.
Yes.
And going back again to 2020.
We're not done with 2020,
no,
y'all.
We done. No, we're not done with 2020. We moving along. Chadwick Boseman. Yes. We remember him. He's most known for his role as T'Challa, the Black Panther, in that Marvel movie. But he did some other movies as well. He played Jackie Robinson in
42. Recently Ma Rainey.
Was it James Brown? He played James Brown, right?
James Brown. Oh, that was fire.
Yeah.
That was fire.
So.
But he played Ma Rainey, Black Bottom Blues. It was great. It's based on the August Wilson's play.
Okay.
It's on Netflix. It's a great one to watch. He's just amazing actor. He was always very, very intentional in his roles.
Yeah.
Very intentional. And again, we're looking at a lot of people who lived a life poured out that passed on. He was very intentional in his roles and wanted to make sure the roles he picked were roles that would have a forever impact in a positive way. Yes.
And, he didn't want anybody to know he was sick, first of all, when he was filming his last movie. It's just a strong man. They noticed, he was losing weight there, but, this is.
No one really understood why.
No one understood why. So they thought maybe he was losing weight for a movie role. And unbeknownst to everybody, he was dealing with some sicknesses that finally took his life. So, we appreciated everything you did, Mr. Boseman. And Marvel already, I'm a big Marvel buff there. If you can see all the stuff behind me here, they already announced that they are not going to recast the role of T'Challa for Black Panther for the next movie. So Wakanda Forever is such a man of strength and character. I agree. So it's going to be interesting to see how they move forward. I think his sister in the movie, Shuri, is probably going to take the mantle.
Marvel said there will be no challenge.
And they cannot bring back Anthony B. To play him. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But we appreciate
the
everything you
sister
did
might be
for us.
the new Black Panther, though. They might make the sister.
That's what I'm just saying. So Shuri, in the comic books, she actually took over the mantle as Black Panther. So they're probably gonna go that route. So
Black women save the world all the time.
all the time, all the time. Your superpower, which you know that
On
what's your
December
superpower?
21st.
Yeah, it's your superpower. All right, moving on. Next thing that happened in 2020, RBG. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Yeah, she passed away from this earth on September 18, 2020. What's your feelings on what Justice Ginsburg did for us?
Phenomenal woman. Like, what a phenomenal woman. Like, just her life. There are several movies on Netflix. If you don't know who she is, you should get to know her. She was a phenomenal woman and a strong woman, and just her ethics, her kindness, but the sharpness of her mind, unparalleled. We were so gracious to have her on our Supreme Court.
Yes.
What an example. What an exemplary woman to follow. Like, definitely a shero for me.
Yeah. And she became the first person to lie in state as a Jewish person here in the US. So yeah. She will be missed.
Cookie.
Yeah. Yeah. She got the name. Notorious RGB. Yeah, we all know. RBG, yeah. And last but not least, let's move right along to what happened here at the election of 2020 and November of this year.
I feel like there should be sound effects.
Wait a minute. I got one.
That's exactly what it felt
the election of 2020.
I feel like we had the election like 1,000 times. Like Biden won 7 times.
Right? It's like it's still going on today, right now, right? We all know that was President Trump and President-elect Joe Biden, right?
Yes.
What was your feelings on that? Everything, spurred back to, the BLM movement to go vote.
Yes. So voting was phenomenal. This was the first year my son could vote, and my nephew. That was super cool to go and have that journey where I remember him as a child watching at that time President Barack Obama get elected, and he watched the whole cycle. So it was really, really awesome to watch that journey. And then now we're at the polls voting. He's now a young man getting ready to vote and have an impact. And so I was excited that whoever you voted for, that America got off their butt and cast their votes.
Right.
In the midst of COVID, whatever's going on, it was enough that in the midst of COVID, folks was like, no, that's enough. It's enough. Y'all done did too much. It's enough now. That's enough.
For real. Yeah.
We showed up.
Yes, we did. And, they still fighting the results, in some states. But we all know, just like Kristen says right here, Biden and Harris, that's what I wanted to talk about next. The first African-American and Asian woman to be elected as the vice president of these United States. Yes.
Yes.
What's your feeling about that?
I wonder what Shirley Chisholm is saying. Like, how amazing. Like, when you look at all of the forerunners and stuff, and what an amazing moment to have. I'm excited. That it was pretty cool. Like in her video, we did it, Joe. We did it. We did it, Joe.
Yes. I'm excited to see what that whole administration is going to look like. It looks like Joe's, he's tapping a whole bunch of different minorities, different women to be in his cabinet and key positions in his administration. So,
and she's a Howard University alum, so HBCU alum. I'm super excited. She's from Cali, so I'm glad that we have a voice there. So, and I think that it'll be balanced. I just pray that the politics and agendas don't supersede
right.
the need for our country to heal. Like, I need everybody up there on the hill to get your lives together and remember, we're your bosses. you're there because we put you there, and clearly we put you out.
Right. No doubt. No doubt.
So get it together.
Yes. All right. So that's kind of the close here. We had Christmas and we had, we got the new year coming up here pretty soon. I want to say one thing that I'm happy for that, that happened in 2020, the rise of streaming. That's one of those things that happened. We got the show, Black and Blue, which spawned Black and Blue Live, everything that y'all watching right now, spurred from that. And our first show, I now have my co-host here, you, Lizzie, but my first show was with you as a guest, and I appreciate you and everything you did for that show to help kick it off, and agreeing to be my co-host and help give this show another layer. And I'm excited for what 2021 is going to bring.
I'm excited. I'm so grateful. Thank you for taking a chance on me. I know you was like, Lord, I don't know about her. She be saying stuff.
Yeah, but I'm grateful.
I'm excited. We forgot one more significant thing. Alex Trebek, he passed in 2020. Alex, and we had to check on all the Black grandmas. That was their boo. Alex Trebek was Black grandma's sugar daddy boo, and they was feeling it. So we had to check on
I've been doing some Jeopardies and paying tribute to Alex Trebek on the show here. So yeah, he was an icon. Yeah, he ran that show for over 20 years. So that's a feat. Nobody gonna be able to take over for that, but somebody.
Do you feel like 2020 pulled up a lot of things that were familiar to us? So
like what?
Like just everything, the way of life, our education system, the people, our go-tos, Jeopardy, like the things that we know, they're no longer, they don't exist anymore.
Right.
Even our democratic process, it ain't what we know anymore, right? Yes, so I feel like if anything else, 2020 was the upheaval of what is familiar, and all of us should be getting ready for 2021 for the unexpected and kind of for the new. It's going to be new. It'll never be the same. Even if we don't ever have to wear a mask again, it'll still never be the same because of the impact of this year.
Yeah. I was listening to something they were talking about, broadcast. Sports broadcasts in particular, and all those other kind of broadcasts as well, where they used to have reporters on scene, at the games doing, all their shots and even doing the game, the play-by-play. And now those guys are doing it from their house. They just got the feed and they calling the game from their house. These broadcast companies, they're probably not going to go back after COVID. They're not going to go back to, paying these broadcasters to travel across the country when they could they know it works now. They can call the game from their own house, and it sounds just as good as it did before. So things ain't never going to be the same again.
Yeah, businesses are going to be cost effective now because working from home, the digital nomad is now a realistic thing that working telecommuting or whatever, that is actually a norm. And I think that we'll see a lot more of that. And you should know that, seeing as you graduated with your master's this year in management.
Thank you for that.
Yes, congrats to you. Yes. So I just think that we're going to see a lot of, even though we may go back to some things, it'll never be the same. Yeah, that's going to be the norm. But I think it may be a good thing. It will allow families, when you look at places like Sweden and Amsterdam, they have a better quality of life. Because they value family, and capitalism there is balanced. It is not as unbalanced as it is here. So that's a whole nother podcast. But
2021,
we're gonna deal with finances and stuff. But yes. So I'm excited for it. But I to be honest, I'm ready for 2022. I think 21 is going to be the cousin of 2020. So I'll wait for 22 to really turn it.
One thing that people had to deal with working at home, dealing with
badass
kids when you trying to work, and baby kids when they trying to work.
Where was Medea when you needed her?
Oh yeah. Wasn't none of that going to happen in my house. Let me tell you that. Listen. I didn't have to work at home because, I'm in blue. We got to be out there. But I appreciate everything. This was a good year in some respects. And we're just gonna keep growing. Next year in 2021, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna expand as Black and Blue. I know the show's kind of concentrated on law enforcement, but we're gonna expand a little bit with other first responders as well. Fire, EMTs, and get more civilians on the show as well to talk about different issues. So stay tuned for that in 2021. And Liz, you got any words to say on the way out?
We love you all. We thank you for supporting us, for just really, this is Dale's vision. So I'm just excited to be a part of this, and for his family. Liz, you don't get to see her in the background. We just appreciate you, Liz. But to all of you all, I just want to encourage you. You're not alone. Even though 2020 has been hard, you're here. So that means you are finishing well. We're going to kick the door in on 2021 and we're going to walk in it together, and we're going to weather whatever 2021 has together, because we're
Amen.
family.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our last and final show of 2020. We will see you in 2021. Thank you, Glorious. This is Liz and Dale. Thank you for serving us in integrity. We appreciate you and continue praying for you and all who serve and protect. Thank you. And Lynn Taylor says, Dale and Liz, we love you and grateful for your service to us. Thank you, Lynn. We appreciate you. And we will see you all. Kristen, thank you both for all you do. Prayers up. 2021. Here we come. Here we come. All right.
Hey,
we'll see you guys in 2021. All right. For my co-host, Elizabeth, my name is Dale, Black and Blue Podcast. We out. We'll see you in 2021.
See you soon.